All right, what's up? What's going on, everybody? Franco here with Frank Analysis. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe and their political messaging. Like, what can we take away from that? There's some pros and cons. We know that the State Department, the military-industrial complex, is involved in a lot of these movies, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a part of that. But oftentimes, we do find some things that we can, some messages that we can take for ourselves for our benefit. At least that's what I've seen and what some of the people who I have on my panel today have seen. So I'm going to introduce my panel here. We have returning to the show Nico House. We have Jackie and Meg from Nerdolitics on the Fred Hampton Leftist. So we'll start by introducing Jackie and Meg since it's the first time on their show, and then we'll introduce Nico. What's going on, guys? Thank you guys very much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so
Thank you so much.
You want to?
It was awesome to be here.
You guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit more and like what you talk about on your show?
Nerdolitics is a show where nerd culture meets politics. So we talk about the politics inherent in things like Marvel, Star Wars. We haven't gotten around to books or comic books yet, but we will, even video games. So that's what we do. It's a 2-hour live stream every Monday where the first 30 minutes is us talking about current events. Next 30 minutes is like what we watch. Like right now we're watching Loki and The Bad Batch. And then the last hour is whatever the topic is supposed to be.
Yeah. I think she basically covered it, so I don't know that I need to add any more to it.
I was waiting for the Meg spin. I was like, what's your take? And she's like,
I don't know how you spin that. You answered it pretty perfectly. That's who we are.
All right, Nico, you want to introduce yourself also and why the MCU is important to you?
I'm just here because Franco is doing some charitable work, trying to give me some more FaceTime with his awesome audience. But I love the MCU. MCU is life. I literally all I watch is MCU, politics, less politics now. Trying to take a break, shit. But in basketball, and obviously politics are involved in like all three of those in unique ways, and that's a lot of what we talk about on either of my various podcasts. And we always somehow, whenever I used to do a show, even though I'm about to bring it back, but I had to take a break from it. But I used to do a show called Mimosa Mondays, and somehow we would always end up on like the topic of the MCU because it's just like so applicable, across the board. I'm sure we're gonna talk about it briefly, but like, for example, we talk about like the deep state and CIA, and basically Captain America, Winter Soldier is literally just that. It's like an expose of the deep state, and how they actually operate, and how you'll think you're altruistic and you're on the right side, and you've just been like, you've arrived at your destination on the path you took to avoid it, thinking that you're doing good. And so like when you're talking about those type of themes, and how consistent that Kevin Feige delivers, and his producers deliver on very abstract themes in ways that you don't have to look for them. You can recognize them. You don't have to look for them. You don't even have to really understand them, but they're there. And I think they are very impactful. And that's why the MCU is so successful.
Definitely. Yeah, so guys, let's start with how is the MCU? What kind of messages do they have? Political messages. We can start with you, Jackie. What political messages stand out to you from the MCU?
To me, the MCU is quite vast. So can you narrow it down? Give me either a character or a series or a show, because there's just so much. That's like saying, well, tell me about the United States. It's like, okay.
No, I meant like what
are we going to be here for months or weeks or?
Yeah, I meant like what sticks out to you, like what political message really sticks out to you. Like for example, Nico was bringing up the deep state and how that was that received an expose in the Winter Soldier. We can pick up from there. Like, do you want to add on to any of that? Like, how is political messaging was in the Winter Soldier?
I agree with him about the political messaging of the Winter Soldier. It kind of dabbled in it in a way that was like, okay, but this is just a movie, but not really. because they bring up things like Operation Paperclip, which is an actual thing. It really happened. And but they can kind of hide behind this, like, well, Hydra's fake, but these things that we're saying are real.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like disguised as like, this is just entertainment. But then if anybody's just like, you know, Google Operation Paperclip, they're like, holy shit, that actually happened. Yes, it did. Along with many other things, like in Falcon and Winter Soldier, Isaiah Bradley's character is fake. He's from the comics, but things that happen to him actually happen to black men, like in Tuskegee. So Marvel has a way of kind of sneaking in critical race theory and like actual history and just being like, but it's just a comic. So basically in that way, they're following the tradition of Marvel Comics, because that's exactly what the comics did. That's how the X-Men started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, feel free to go back and forth, guys. Like, you don't have to wait for me to call on you guys.
So as far as like Falcon and Winter Soldier concerned, like, so she's like right, because they do talk about a lot of that in the comics, but MCU has this good habit, I think, of like completely and totally rendering comics, like the comic themes, like useless, right? So for example, when you think about like Captain America, he was created as like a propaganda tool, effectively, right? And then you like have Civil War come after, you know, the Winter Soldier, and it's like the world's most well-known like comic book propaganda figure literally is on the run from the government now. He's considered an enemy of the state, and which kind of deals with the theme of the most patriotic thing you could do is to stand up to the tyranny of your own country. So they took the figure that was considered patriotic and made him an enemy of the state. And it was because actually of how patriotic he was. And so it really deals with like the abstract of like, okay, do you actually know what patriotic is, or y'all just saying that? Because what he's doing is actually what's patriotic. And when you do the real patriotic shit, you get in trouble for it. You don't get rewarded for it. And you see him actually dealing with that in Winter Soldier when he was like, or is it Civil War? No, it's Winter Soldier, where he was like, you know, like back in the day, like they just told him to go be a soldier, and it was like a lot easier then. And like now it's just like a lot more complicated, but it's because he's realizing everybody has their own agenda and I'm basically just being used as a pawn, which is a realization that a lot of soldiers actually have, where they make the transition. Like, I got out of the military because I just didn't believe in any of this shit. And a lot of people make that decision. Some people kind of double down or they try to change it from within, which I probably feel like it was a healthy combination of both for him. But you see him dealing with like even real struggles that soldiers actually deal with too.
Yeah, Meg, you want to add on to anything?
I had a thought in that. I feel like I just lost it. I hate it when that happens. But no, I just got it back. But I like what Nico had to say about particularly his showing what his patriotism looked like, and that was by dissenting. And I think you were definitely getting to the difference between like, yeah, rah, support the troops and all of that nonsense. But that's not patriotism. That's nationalism. And we have to understand what the difference is. Like, celebrating your country and without any kind of understanding of its flaws and wanting to fix those flaws. Like, you hear it whenever people say like, oh, you don't like it here? You don't like the way it is? Then just leave. Get out of here. We don't need you. Like, that's nationalism. That's not patriotism. That's not love of country. If you love your country, you want it to be the very best that it possibly can be. And Captain America definitely represents that, considering he dissented from the state and was saying, no, this is not okay. I fought for liberty. This is not liberty. This is fear.
Captain America was the enemy of the state until he died. I think a lot of people forget that. Like, or until he got old, and you know, we don't know where he's at right now. But like basically until he wasn't Captain America anymore, he was an enemy of the state.
Very true.
Which is like pretty intense when you think about it.
Do you feel like these characters have been the most heroic when they broke the rules or when they broke tradition? Like, for example, like Black Panther, when he met with his ancestors, like, hey, I'm not going to continue this. Like, I'm going to open myself up to the world and try to, you know, improve the world with our resources. Man. Or Captain America standing against, you know, what the what SHIELD and the government wanted to do, which was like surveil people, you know, people who they thought were going to be threats. Or when him and Bucky and everybody like went against the Sokovia Accords. Who else? Like there's so many examples.
It depends on the character, because those characters were better when they went against the rules. But Tony Stark goes against the rules all the time, and he's not necessarily better for it.
True.
In fact,
he has
Tony
his own
Stark
rules.
in Civil War tried to force everybody else to follow rules that he had no intention of following because he originally broke the rules, which is why they created the rules.
Yeah, no, he had intention on following them then, like, but it's because the trauma of what he had went through, and then because like you gotta remember, like this basically ever since he's been kidnapped, he's been on an emotional roller coaster of overcorrecting from that moment forward. So like he creates fucking Ultron, and I don't know, like everybody, I know it's technically a superhero movie, but it's literally just a movie about how they kind of saved the city that they destroyed.
Exactly. Like, he creates Ultron, and then what is the solution? Well, the only way to stop Ultron is to create Vision, but he didn't know Vision was going to be good.
Yeah.
Nobody knew if Vision was good or not until he picked up Thor's hammer.
Yeah. Well, Thor knew that Vision was going to be good, though. Thor
knew just because he went to that ancient pool and had a vision.
Tony had a vision.
But Tony's about to do the same shit. Yeah.
Yeah, the humans didn't, and he literally, like, he learned nothing. He was just like, well, okay, we needed to do that, and it didn't work. So in order to fix it, I need to do it again. Like that's and that's why Captain America, like originally before Thor like took off and had that, had the vision in the pool, he was, do you remember he grabbed him by the throat because he was like, what the fuck did you do?
Yeah, he was like, they scrapped for real. Yeah. I think the Black Panther point is actually like a big one because they have so many like political themes and social themes and family themes that are interwoven in that movie. But the we know how they are like isolationists, right? And you kept hearing them say, oh man, if we let everybody in or help them, then their problems become our problems, which sounds super logical, but it only sounds logical because like that's actually a Western imperialist mindset to justify that, not that they're using it like that, but that's how Westerners have justified not helping the refugees that they end up creating. And they say, oh, the problems of the refugees. It's like, no, it isn't the problem you creating wars. Like, first of all, right? But in this particular movie, it's interesting because they're like, oh man, like, oh, their problems become our problems. I'm like, motherfucker, you have a dome to stop aliens from invading your country. Are you trying to tell me you couldn't handle a few refugees? What the fuck problems could they bring that y'all can't solve? That's what I'm confused about. It didn't make any sense, but it's a lie that they repeated over and over and over and over and over and over and over again to justify their isolationism. And you have, or at least, and it's like they're not even real isolationists, right? They're not even real isolationists, which is kind of how the West is. They like remember in Falcon and Winter Soldier, the Dora Milaje have jurisdiction where they want.
Yeah, wherever they please.
Wherever they find themselves.
They even have
I was like, what?
Yo, how is that works? They didn't have reason to do it. I think that it changed though. I think when they originally did it, they absolutely needed to be isolated because if not, then like Western countries would have colonialized them. But eventually when they became, because originally they weren't as advanced as they are now. But once they became the most advanced civilization, that's when they're just telling the same lies that they're just saying the same thing.
That vibranium meteor lasted like thousands of years prior.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know how long they didn't develop the technology from the vibranium until recently.
I mean, but so my thing is every other country is also like not like they don't have the technology and they're underdeveloped. And I got vibranium, so at least like my spears are fucking y'all up at bare minimum. Like it's just it's like once you get to a certain level of advancement, the only thing that can stop you, potentially is overextension, but it's mostly like self-interest would be what stop you. And I feel like there was a level of like you can't tell me you're isolationist, but y'all been sending spies out for hundreds of years. There's like a book out. Actually, I don't know if y'all are familiar with it, but it's like a book out of like kind of like filling in the blanks on like a lot of shit. And it's like basically like the files of like Wakanda. And it's like they just been keeping fucking tabs on everybody. Literally everybody. And I'm like, I'm not really good isolationists. I feel like y'all literally are spying on fucking everybody, putting your will wherever you needed to be put to influence event. Like why was he in charge of the, why was like T'Challa's dad in charge of the Sokovia Accords, but y'all are isolationists and y'all don't want to be involved.
The reason
it's
why
kind of why you died, right? Because you're a
charge of
hypocrite.
that was because it was their people that were bombed in the
because you're in another country on a quote unquote
and they were
mission.
they were supposedly like outreach there, but no, even in the movie they were called watchdogs, but they were essentially just spies that went to other countries. That's how Okoye and what's her name, the other one, I want to say Lupita Nyong'o, but that's the actress's name. What's her character's name?
That's Nakia, right? Oh, Nakia.
Yeah.
That's how Nakia spoke like 5 different languages.
Yeah.
And because she was one of the watchdogs. She was sent to, and that's how Killmonger's dad was in the United States. That's why he was in Oakland, because he was sent there to spy. But when he got there, he was like, yo, black people are treated like shit. We need to do something. Exactly. We have the technology. We can help them. We need to. And he literally got killed for it by his brother.
Plot twist, everybody. I don't know if y'all know this already, but Killmonger was the protagonist of that movie. I don't know if y'all know this. But
oh yeah, we were talking about that earlier, like when I was on Nerdolitics, about Killmonger and whether Black Panther is the actual hero or he's an anti-hero. Jackie was saying that he's an anti-hero, right?
Who, Black Panther?
Yeah.
Yeah, in that movie, he would probably be considered an anti-hero. Like, he's just trying to maintain order at that point. It's like Killmonger wasn't actually. I feel like he was wrong in the sense of, I don't want to say how he went about his business, because like that shit it's just, when you hear his logic and you're like, yeah, man, but these motherfuckers, until they figure out what it's like to be us, they're not going to do anything different. It's like, God damn, it's really hard to argue with his logic, man. But then he's like, oh, I'm going to use the tactics that they taught us. That was my issue, right? Because like the whole reason you don't like them is because of what they did to our people, using these tactics and them using coups and all that shit. Now you're like, but let me go be them. It's like, so you're just going to create the exact same dynamic, and then it's just going to work in the reverse. And it's like, you're not actually solving the problem. And that was my issue. It should have been, obviously, in a perfect world, him and T'Challa would have worked together, but obviously that's not the case. But yeah, Killmonger was still like right though. Like literally, T'Challa admits Killmonger was right. He goes and starts a whole fucking like, yeah, we're gonna do a whole science outreach program and interact with anybody, because God knows we don't want another Killmonger on our hands. Because he's right, but we can't do it like that.
Yeah.
It's like Audre Lorde famously said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Like you can't defeat,
fascism.
you can't defeat fascism. You can't beat capitalism with black capitalism. You can't beat feminism or you can't defeat patriarchy using women in high places and not defeating it
within a patriarchal system.
Or imperialism with more imperialism. Like trying to impose what you think is right for the rest of the world when you're not respecting the other country's sovereignty.
It literally killed, like, T'Challa's dad died because he was a hypocrite, and people don't catch that because like it's a super sad moment. But like he's like, yeah, as Lations, we can't help anybody except for when we choose to fucking impose our will on the Avengers. Nick, like, what? What the fuck do you think you are? Like, you can't just be like, we're not going to help anybody until we feel like we want to help people, and everyone better not question me because then you're the problem. And Avengers also have to answer to me too. But we're isolationists, and we don't want to be bothered with your problems.
United States.
Yeah, actually, yes, exactly.
And what
Wakanda was the United States. We have, because what's the big difference between Wakanda? Why is Wakanda the most advanced civilization on Earth? Because they have a certain resource, right? And because of that resource, they can make weapons. Why is the United States the world leader? Because we have nuclear weapons and we have more than anybody else.
Well, also we have a ridiculous amount of resources too. Like,
resources as well, just like Wakanda. And because we have more nuclear weapons than anybody else, and we're the only ones who've actually used them on someone else, meaning we've pulled call our bluff, we'll blow you up. We prevent other people from getting nuclear weapons so they can fight back against us.
Only the enemy countries.
You know what? What's so funny too about what you just said, Nico, about the fact that we have all these resources is that we really don't. I mean, even consider like our trade. We import more than we export. So all of those resources that we have, but that's exactly the case, is that we are all these resources that we have, we're taking from other places.
No.
Which,
So with
like,
our resources, we import more than we
Mhm.
export to keep other countries to keep them financially hostage,
Mhm.
so that they become symbiotically dependent on us instead of being like independently
True.
like benefiting from it. So like that's why one of the reasons that China and the US have to tiptoe around each other so much is because we're a third of China's economy. But people are like, oh, we're a third of their economy. Yeah, motherfucker. But also, we're a third of their economy, which means they're a shitload of ours as well. And our corporations and our elites need that relationship to work so they can take advantage of China's loose laws in some ways. And so we have for example, we actually grow, I think, the second or third largest, we have like the second or third largest sugarcane supply in the world, but we're not allowed to export that amount because of the WTO makes it so that Brazil is the only one allowed to export that amount. So they export like 92% of the world's sugarcane out of Brazil. Wow. And if we try to overtake that, then we could actually be penalized for it. But what it really is like, but we also then limit Brazil in every other aspect as well when it comes to exports. So like we use it as like financial hostage. And it's like kind of fucked up. You're right, because like we have almost all these resources, and we'll still try to hold other countries hostage so that they're not competition for us later on down the line. They can't fight or stand up to us without hurting themselves.
Right, and that kind of like even
the reason why. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, like even when like other countries decide to fight back and decide to hold on to their resources and even give it to the people, like Bolivia. Guess what the United States decides to do is fake that there was an election fraud, attempt a coup in order to overthrow that government. That way Bezos and Elon Musk can get their lithium.
While Elon Musk admits we have a shitload of lithium in Nevada.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's another reason why we do it is because it's like the Oreo cookie, or not Oreo cookie, but like the donut thing. Like if you have a glass of milk and you want to drink your glass of milk, you don't want crumbs in it, so you dunk your donut in your sister's glass of milk.
Is that I never drank milk growing up.
I don't drink milk. My thing is, like, I'm actually allergic to milk, so I don't drink it either. When I was a kid, there were like rare instances when I would have milk, right? And so my sister would dunk her donut in my milk. So I'm like, so rude. Great. Now even the one time I can drink it, I can't drink it. And she was like, well, I'm not gonna get mine dirty. And that's pretty much what, like, the US has oil resources as well. But in order to do that, we would destroy the environment where you take it out. So we're like, nah, we'll just take it from somebody else. And like Nico said,
actually, they don't give a shit about that.
Hold them hostage by doing that.
They don't give a shit about destroying the environment. I mean, they still do it. We are the number one exporter of oil in the world now. And it's like, yeah, but we wouldn't be if we let Iran get their way. So now we got to stop you all because it's about like all of that shit's about resource control, right? That's why like the reason that we don't allow North Korea to reach the prominence that it reached when it first like split from Korea, because they're like the fastest growing economy in the world, is because of their proximity to Russia. And that's it. And like, you can't let a communist country be successful and be close because they're like basically there's a sea and then there's Russia and they're allies. And then so now you lose like that whole area potentially, because if there was a frontline assault, Russia could then use North Korea as a base and they would have the resources to accommodate them. So now you're like, and then you're working your way down into East Asia from Russia. And that's why we keep the DMV. It has nothing to do with fucking like communism, or I mean, I guess communism, but it's nothing to do with any of that shit. It's like, we can't just have the resource, but we have to make sure that you're not competition for it, which is actually why I believe that Saudi Arabia and Iran are actually like kind of like working together behind the scenes now, because Saudi Arabia understands we're the US's allies, but what happens because Iran's the last, like basically their last bastion, like that's the last place we have to make sure in Syria that they can't have any influence over the oil supply. And then we, because Venezuela, we kind of have under control right now. So it's like, what happens next? Who's the last person left? Saudi Arabia. Do you think that we're really about to continue negotiating with somebody when you're the only person left? It's like, nope, you know what time it is. Go ahead and have the keys. Appreciate you. Thank you. And Saudi Arabia knows that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's even whenever Trump was trying to block that and put sanctions on the pipeline in Russia that was going to supply Germany. We can't have Russia being a competition for us. So we have to
Exactly.
block that through by sanctions.
And they make up some excuse as to why.
So basically, geopolitical situation is a game of risk.
Game of risk.
Risk.
Yeah, the board.
Oh,
game
like game
risk.
theory, basically. Yeah, I mean, it's all game theory. Yeah, and it's what I love about going back to the MCU. What we're going to see going forward, in my opinion, is on the grander scale, the Kree and the
Skrulls.
The Skrulls.
the Skrulls, because we've seen like how the Kree are obviously shit. I mean, if you want to see some dark shit, I don't know if any of y'all in the audience have watched Agents of Shield, but that season of Agents of Shield, like when they're in the future and they're living on the what is it called? You know what I'm talking about? Like
The
basically the
lighthouse?
agent's base, the lighthouse. There you go, the lighthouse, and like the fucking Kree are like basically like just it's like a slave auction. That bitch, it's crazy as fuck. And the Skrulls have been painted mostly as the victims right now. But then you're going to have, like in any scenario, where you have the radical Skrulls that are going to come out. Like we know that's coming. And then it's going to be like, now you're seeing it from a different light where they're terrorizing innocent Kree, or like maybe like Kree that are on Xandar, who are like just kind of in between, or obviously not Xandar anymore, but innocent Kree.
You mean Hala?
Nah, like there were Kree on Xandar too. Like because
Yeah,
they
but
had
the
the
Kree on
peace treaty.
Xandar aren't innocent.
So that's why I said like not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant, like innocent as in like at
But-
home, because Hala would be home.
Yeah. And well, shit. Not anymore. Hala is officially destroyed as of like last week, right? Did y'all?
Wait.
Oh, y'all didn't see that. So if you
No,
go,
when did
and
Hala
you
get
see
destroyed?
where she destroys the like all those different places, if you stop it and pause it, it shows that she destroyed Ego, Hala,
Oh,
Asgard.
she didn't. Are you talking about Loki?
Yeah.
She didn't destroy those places. She
No, she timeline reset them, like which is effectively just nuking.
yeah, she reset the timeline. So basically,
I mean,
what
like-
happened was
That's nuking him though, basically though.
no. So here's what I
Oh, I want to hear this.
Okay, I think that what she did was she sent those charges back to remember when you watch, they always like in that episode actually, I think Loki
Mhm.
said, if it's such a problem, why don't you just, instead of going and finding the people and destroying it, why don't you go back to before they got there and stop them? And they said, we can't do that. So what I think she did was she went back and she reset the timeline from them resetting the timelines, which is why all of those different things, all
Well,
those branches
why
sparked up.
there was all
but
those
Loki
splits?
said like when they were like, yeah, we have to. So what happens if you know you have the branch off, and he's like, oh,
Mhm.
we reset the timeline. He's like, so you blow everything up, and then
Yeah,
he's
you
like,
blow
I mean, more or
everything up.
less.
So what I'm saying is what they did was, so they originally the TVA would come and the TVA would blow everything up from that point, so that the only thing that could happen was the main timeline. So the branch timeline doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yeah,
And
but
I think
from
what
that
she
point,
did was she went back to before the TVA got there. And when the TVA got there, she blew that up. So now the variant is free. And that's where the variant.
see, I don't
timeline
think it's
comes in.
about variance at all. I think it's she went in with the ultimate goal of literally just blowing up the sacred timeline. And to do that, you have to blow up places that are significant. Like, because remember he said that, like, for example, the Avengers, like, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And they said that like the first episode. And so you destroy Ego, Nebula and Gamora never make up. You destroy Asgard, Loki and Thor never actually become close
actually,
because they never
at
have to
the time-
fight. They never have to fight Hela.
Star-Lord doesn't even get invented, because if you look at the time that she went back to Ego, she did it years before he even started. Like it was
Like implanting things
like
on
the
other
1800s
planets
or something like that. It was she went back.
So
like,
she makes sure that
so
Star-Lord
Peter
never
Quill
even
doesn't
becomes a
even
thing.
exist. But see, that's what I'm
Whoa.
saying. I don't think that what she did was destroyed the actual physical thing. She destroyed the TVA's timeline when they destroyed the timeline.
Yeah, but there's only one timeline though. So like then you're destroying the time. Like that there's only one timeline. That's their whole thing. They
there's
don't have
only one
multiple different
timeline
timelines.
because they came and destroyed that variant timeline. So if she goes back to before they destroyed the variant timeline and destroys the TVA's timeline, then the actual event, the variant, can happen.
But variants usually they describe the variants only as people.
Right.
They don't describe the timelines as variants.
Right. The people, variants are people that create an alternate timeline. They do something. That creates an alternate timeline.
Yeah, but like,
so what I'm saying
so
is,
you
like,
reset,
she basically reset it so that all those alternate timelines can come back, which is why those red lines started popping up all over the place. But you can't.
So the problem with that is, like, if that was her goal, there would be no, if just like doing that and like letting it ride, there's no guarantee that you get that outcome. That's the only reason I think it's not that. Because if you destroy that timeline, well, okay, so maybe this person does, like, you destroyed one timeline. Now it's a sacred timeline, but then you destroy that, then you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. You're creating alternative realities, but you don't have any idea what the variant is, who the variant is, why it got like that. But like just blowing up major landmarks in time that like are already pre-established because of what, because you get to see it because it's the same stream of time over and over again. Like if you just destroy those major landmarks, that's going to create a variant guaranteed. And I think that, so my theory for the overall universe, Wanda's actually the bad guy, quote unquote, of the MCU for this phase until Kane was going to come in. But I don't even think he's basically just reacting. But and the whole goal that when Agatha read out the Darkhold in WandaVision, she said the goal of, or excuse me, the destiny of Scarlet Witch is to destroy the universe, like the whole universe. But what I believe it is actually like saying, yeah, her goal is to destroy the universe so she can create the multiverse. Because the universe is just a fucking fake thing created by fascists, literally.
And that's what she calls them. The female Loki, Sylvie, she's like, yeah, the TVA are a bunch of fascists. Mm-hmm. It's because they want narrative control. They want to keep a certain timeline. The thing is, like, why do they want to keep that? And isn't the natural order for there to be multiple timelines just like...
That is a natural order. And they're trying to and so now Wanda herself is not actually just doing it for altruistic reasons. She's like fucking schizophrenic at this point, and she's just trying to get her fucking family back. So and she's very clearly willing to destroy fucking everything to get it, and that will likely lead to the creation of the multiverse. And there might be a belief that for some that they're actually doing the right thing by fighting her and stopping her from creating the multiverse. But in actuality, that is the natural order of things. And spoiler alert, I know y'all probably don't want to know this. It's Loki. The guy is Loki. The timekeeper is Loki.
What? They were saying earlier that
the timekeeper
is like old man Loki from the comics, right?
Timekeeper, old man Loki.
I don't know about all that, but I just know it's Loki because it's just this Marvel. It's the shit that Marvel would do. The whole thing is about Loki finding himself.
And I disagree. I agree with a lot of what you said. I still disagree that they were destroying actual events, like actual things. I think that what she was doing was destroying not the whole, not like the actual place, like the entire planet. I think they were destroying, she was destroying just like the timekeepers on that planet. Because if they were destroying the whole planet, then Star-Lord can't live.
So like resetting the reset.
Well, yeah, she doesn't want Star-Lord to live.
Well, so okay, and also I disagree on, you said that Wanda's going to start the multiverse. I think that variant Loki, the Sylvie, just started the multiverse when she did that. But they're going to create a multiverse.
Yeah, but so that's like it is creating a multiverse, but it's like, well, we don't know what the outcome is going to be, but Wanda is like literally trying to rip the universe like apart. And I think that that's actually supposed to happen because we don't know what the outcome of this is going to be. We don't know if it's going to be like a quote unquote happy ending. We don't know if they think that they have to preserve the sacred timeline for whatever reason, because we just literally do not know. But I do know that it's going to be a Loki because that's exactly what the fuck Kevin Feige would do.
I think the person with the sacred timeline thing is Kang the Conqueror. I don't think it's I do think
they won't do that because he's already going to be the antagonist in fucking Ant-Man. So they're not going to use him twice like that. Not like that.
Why wouldn't they? Loki was used in multiple movies.
Loki's not an antagonist. He's not a villain.
He was the villain in Thor and in the Avengers.
No, he wasn't. He was just a traumatized kid trying to fucking win the love of his family. It's not the same thing.
True, but as far as like, if you go back, like, who is the villain of Thor? In the way that they
Thor was the villain of Thor.
Same thing with Avengers.
Thor was the villain of Thor.
No, yeah, I agree. I can't stand Thor, but I'm saying
like on the surface,
Loki was the villain.
Like what people see,
on the surface, it was Loki. But in reality, Thor was because Loki never gets a chance to do any of the shit in Thor. Like Avengers doesn't happen if Thor just doesn't fucking go to Jotunheim. Right? Is that what's called? Jotunheim?
Yes.
Yeah. There's no fucking Avengers movie. And all he has to do is like do the right thing. But obviously we know that like Loki's whole thing, like they revealed, is like, yeah, you fuck up and you think that you're doing bad shit, but actually you're just helping everybody reach their potential. Sorry, guy. That must be frustrating. But like imagine like he's like, yeah, bro, I'm fucking bad.
Even in that though, the reason why Loki's still seen as the villain is because the reason why Thor goes to Jotunheim is because of Loki. Because Loki's the one who brought the frost giants.
Oh yeah.
But like you're dumb, you're an idiot who went anyway because your ego. So
Thor's an idiot. I agree with you. But he was
movie,
easily manipulated, but Loki manipulated him, which is why people see him as the villain.
But his dad manipulates him also.
Oh no, his dad
everybody's like manipulating in the
Thor series. Like all 3 Thor movies, the ultimate villain is Odin. He's an asshole.
Yes. Fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and he's the ultimate colonizer because even Hela, like
she was like, where do you think we got all this gold?
Exactly. And she showed how they really got their gold and why they thought that the 9 realms belonged to them because he went around conquering all of it.
Odin is like particularly nefarious too, because like he's the celestial. So like he just walked around using his power to fuck everybody up. Everybody else like kind of stayed to themselves and handled their own business. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna conquer fucking planets and realms and then make them all mine. Thank you.
And Loki is essentially a prisoner of war that was taken and then adopted and made to believe that he was Asgardian.
So I went back and watched the movie, the first Thor, the other day, and I actually think he was left to die because he was undersized for a frost giant, and that's why Odin took him. Well, at least that's what the narrative is.
That's I have Odin's a theory tale. That's what Odin tells him.
Yeah.
But Odin, when you see Odin hold him, he's like a little frost giant baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see Odin wipe his hand across him to make him look Asgardian.
Mm-hmm.
And then from then on,
we don't know if that's what's happening, though. We don't know if that's what's happening. I actually have a theory that fucking Afrika is actually Loki's mother. And we're going to find that out. And that's why she was always closer to Loki than Thor.
So I don't think she's actually his mother because even in the comics and in Norse mythology, she
can't look at the comics to get a ego. Isn't Quill's dad in the comics? He did that, like specifically, like, and he's not from Missouri either, which he did that because he's from Missouri. James Gunn is.
James Gunn,
yeah. So they do stuff like with very specific intention and veer completely away from the comics when they have a theme in mind that they want to convey, like what they did. Ego. Like basically Guardians 2 is just about like your found family. And like when Ego enters the movie, who isn't Quill's dad in the comics, but like James has a specific purpose for him. He enters the movie, the family splits up and they don't get back together until Ego's destroyed.
And Ryan Coogler also had that focus in Oakland when, that wasn't in the comics, but it's just because.
And that wasn't it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so they use very specific circumstances, obviously for relatability purposes, but like, come on, like literally
everything has to be in New York
without keeping an empath without a.
Well, storytellers always put themselves in their shows, in their movies. So
yeah, definitely. But I'm saying like in specific, like they like, so with James Gunn in that particular situation, like the dude literally walks around with an empath as a pet and he like, and his name is Ego, and he can't sleep without the empath, like just keeping him around or keeping her around, which is like crazy as shit. Because nobody actually, everybody, I'm sure if you watch Franco's show with me on it, you probably heard this. Y'all need to go watch Guardians 2 on shrooms and go rethink your life. Okay.
It goes so deep, man.
You're welcome.
You broke my brain with that.
It will change everything you thought you knew about the world. My first time doing shrooms, I accidentally watched it because like it was the last thing I watched. I was like, all right, whatever, just put it on. And I'm watching the movie like, yo, what the fuck? I don't remember this movie being this good. What the fuck is going on? Oh my God, this movie is crazy. And I'm like, by the end, when they go to like the little panoramic scene, like right after the plane blows up and he calls him Mary Poppins, I'm literally thinking to myself, yo, how the fuck did we get here? When did this happen? Like when, like you got Yondu out here like calling his apparently adopted father now Mary Poppins, and he's just so happy that his adopted son is super happy that he thinks he's cool now. It's like, what the fuck is going on? And it's just like James Gunn So also a theme in that movie that nobody actually pays attention to is Quill and Kraglin have a contentious relationship. And they never talk. And nobody actually recognizes that, which is why it's so special that he says, like, he calls him captain at the end of the movie. Because Kraglin always viewed him as, like, he's like a jealous older brother, basically. He's like, you always fucking forgiving Quill. And I just want you to fucking treat me like Quill. You don't fucking treat me like Quill. You fucking let him get away with everything. It's like, you know, like older brothers always talk about their little siblings. You let them fucking get away with everything. Fucking never correct them. You always say you're gonna kill them. You never do. Like, God damn it, starting a mutiny. My bad, I didn't mean to start a mutiny. But my point still stands. And then they finally talk, and then he gives him the arrow, and then he calls him captain. And that's the first time they actually talk in 2 movies and nobody recognizes it. Watch it on shrooms, everybody. That's my advice.
There's more to it than that. There's more, like you talk about the shadow and everything.
Oh man, yeah, no, that whole movie, the themes in that movie are insane. Like they got the shadow, and then Mantis and Drax are like Marvel's like first like clearly autistic characters, and nobody actually realizes it because they don't think of them as being autistic. They're just like, oh, they're fucking hilarious, and like this is just how they are. And because you don't put a label to them, like you just naturally accept them, and like they become some of people's like Marvel people's favorite characters. But that's one of the reasons why Mantis and Drax are so close, is because they're the autists in the group. And so Drax, it is funny because Drax can't show any emotion, right? Or at least like not anything seemingly where it's like you can't see what he's thinking on his body and his face. But when she touches him, she starts crying. And so now like everybody like, oh shit, this is what the fuck Drax is going through all the time. That's fucking horrible. And she doesn't know what to feel or how to think about things until somebody tells her how to think or how to feel about them. And Drax is the only one who will be 100% honest with her all the time, no matter what, like to an uncomfortable degree. And so like in real life, autists actually tend to find each other because of like just the inherent and visceral relatability and comfort without fear of being judged. But like there's like also like Quill doesn't interact with Mantis the whole movie, except for the one time he's like, Drax, get Mantis out, and he specifically told Drax to take her out for whatever reason. And so I think they even set up relationships in the movie where there are these two people, if they're interacting for this whole movie, there's a very specific reason for that. Like they didn't let Quill see Yondu the whole movie. They didn't, Rocket and Quill are like going at it fucking hard. And nobody thinks Rocket is like, would think that like, yeah, Rocket's probably fucking jealous because he's been trying to meet his, father this whole time. And Quill, it just happens to stumble upon him. So he's lashing out against Quill because he's fucking jealous. Like, and they always have they always going back and forth for competing. So there's just like a lot of shit. And then the Nebula, oh God. When she's like talking about like, you're the one who wanted to win. And like, I just wanted a sister. And she starts describing like Thanos pulled my eye from my head and my arm from my body because of you. And then in Infinity Wars, literally he's staring at fucking Gamora over the Soul Stone and doing the exact shit she just complained about in Guardians 2. Like ripping her a fucking part because of Gamora. Mm-hmm. If Guardians 2 wasn't great, Infinity Wars would have been trash. Think about that. It would have been nothing to fucking do. Like, yeah. What are you talking? It's the whole movie's about Guardians. It's like a Guardians 3 movie, basically.
And
it's
Thor.
A lot of movies. Like it's a Civil War 2. Like it's an Iron Man 4. It's a Thor movie. It's everything. That's why it was so great. It was really good at balancing
more like
out.
Guardians of Thor for sure.
It was it was a Wanda movie
Civil War 2?
Like a Scarlet Witch movie, because we learn more about her and her relationship with Vision.
I don't feel like it was like they definitely kind of fucked her over on purpose, right? Because like it had to go like that. But yeah, they basically spent the whole movie like distracting her so she wouldn't fuck up Thanos. Like you had to, he was like, hey, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have to make her fuck a robot so she doesn't realize how strong she is. Because once everybody realizes that, it's gonna be just like, why didn't I just send Wanda?
Oh, Nico. So one of the things we were talking about is how Tony Stark, like whether he's a villain or not, and if he'd be a villain in real life. And we were talking about, look at all these characters how they were in a bad place, or they stayed as villains or died as villains because Tony Stark created them to be that way. And Wanda and Pietro are one of those people. Like, they wouldn't have been like that if his weapons didn't land.
No,
in
not
their
Wanda.
home. Huh?
Not Wanda. Wanda actually, remember in WandaVision, she always had her powers. The Mind Stone just amped it up.
Oh no, but her
not about when
motivation
she
to
got-
rebel.
Not about when they got their powers, but why they were introduced.
Oh,
Yeah.
understood.
He was
Yeah.
introduced
Oh,
as a
yeah.
villain because
They never
of the Stark
become
tech.
like, yeah, they never become like freedom fighters, so to speak. If
Right.
it wasn't for Tony, yeah. I mean, he created his own fucking bad guy.
He created most of the bad guys in the MCU. He
I
created
know.
both the Spider-Mans. He created Wanda and Pietro. He created Ultron. Because of Ultron, he created the reason for the Sokovia Accords. It was his guilt that created Civil War. So a lot of the villains they're directly on him.
Yeah. That's why I find it hilarious that the first Spider-Man is literally just him fucking up over and over again to impress Tony. That's just all the movie's about, is him fucking up. It's literally, that's it. And I love it. I love it because it's like MCU has a way of humanizing their superheroes. Like, yeah, they have all these powers, but they're still fucking traumatized humans also. And the things that they've went through have consequences. And I always talk about, I'm not sure how old y'all are, but like this Spider-Man, I have zero connection to. Like, I love Spider-Man, don't get me wrong, but this isn't the Spider-Man I grew up. The Spider-Man I grew up with is over-emotional, always trying to compensate, because he feels like he has to protect everybody, because he's the guy now, the only guy, the one screaming about Mary Jane all the time, because like, he just always thinks the world is coming to an end and everything is super serious. That's what it's like when you're just raised by a woman and you lose your father figure and then your actual father in traumatic accidents. But this one has a father figure, and because of that, everything he does revolves around impressing the father figure. Which is like, that's not Spider-Man for my generation. But it's cool to see, because now we get to see what Spider-Man would have been like if he got to focus on being the best version of Spider-Man rather than trying to be super Peter Parker and a superhero. Because now he gets the scholarships. Now he's not worried about he's never going to have to want for anything ever fucking again. So now I could just be the best Spider-Man ever because my father figure set me up. And that's kind of like, so you see him, remember, like in the second one, he is lax into trusting. Why? Because the last guy who randomly entered my life telling me he wanted to save me was Tony, and Tony was amazing. Why can't I trust this guy with Tony's glasses? Well, because people are actually shitty. But I don't have that built up distrust because I didn't lose my father and then constantly having to navigate that throughout my life. The last time that happened, Tony was my guy, and look how that turned out. I have a fucking metal suit now.
So Tony Stark has a lot of similarities to like the US, creating all these terrorist groups because they intervene and want to take their resources. Who would be like, are there countries that try to like impress the US and be like, hey, look at me, like I'm trying to do all these things so I can be like on your good side, US, like bring me along the ride. I want to empower myself also, just like you are in this like journey towards imperialism.
Yeah, I mean, they said in Spider-Man, he's literally creating a mess and then getting paid by the government to clean it up. But I was like, oh, because he created the Vulture. He even created the fucking Vulture, bro. He created Spider-Man's first
And
bad
Mysterio.
You created both of them. Well, it's Vulture and Mysterio.
Yes. Yeah, like, bro, like the whole fucking the second Spider-Man movie. Look at all these other bad guys that Tony created, like that are just pieces of the same bad guy now. Like it's that fucking deep. Because he's and the third Spider-Man or third Iron Man movie.
He created all of Tony's villains are a direct result of Tony's actions.
Except for one, that was his father.
Mm-hmm. When was Tony's father his villain?
Whiplash.
Oh, Whiplash. Oh. Yeah, I still say that's a direct result of Tony, because when Tony created the Iron Man suit, that's when he got on Whiplash's radar. So he's still.
And what's funny too is that even in Winter Soldier, Tony's still involved because he gave them the technology to build.
The fucking
to stay
Project
in the air.
Insight.
Yeah. Because without Tony's upgrades, they would have to come back down to refuel. But he created the technology to keep them in the air. So like I said, he's the ultimate villain of the MCU.
Yeah, but he also
Step
saved
aside,
him.
Thanos.
Really, but for real though, like
Literally,
that-
the entire thing was just a conflict between the two villains, Tony Stark and
Tony
Thanos.
Stark and
Thanos, it's literally Tony's ego versus Thanos' ego. That's literally
It
what
really
it is.
is.
It really is. Yeah.
But I will say, something that gets lost on a lot of people is, remember in the first Avengers when Captain America was like, you're not the kind of guy that would like lay down on the line to like save everybody. And obviously that's ultimately what ends up happening. And that's actually the first time you see Cap cry in the whole, like at the end of Endgame. That's the only time you've ever seen him cry. He didn't even cry when Peggy died.
He did.
But like he didn't cry when Peggy died.
He had tears.
He died when Black Widow died too.
When
Yeah.
who?
When Black Widow died, he cried
Black
both
Widow?
times.
I don't remember
In,
him crying when Black Widow died.
In
I thought
Civil
that-
War, when
Mhm.
he found out that Peggy was dead, he left and he cried by himself.
he like cried, like he like cried
And he was
like,
crying at the funeral too.
in the no, because he was like looking at what's her name. He didn't cry at the funeral because he was like staring at her, and like it was kind of in all that she was her niece.
Staring at Peggy's niece.
When he was carrying
when he was carrying the
one of the
coffin.
pallbearers,
When they
he was
walked in
carrying
and
the-
they were carrying
yeah.
the casket.
Mm,
coffin.
okay, yeah, I gotta look that again. I remember his eyes watering. I couldn't remember if he actually like cried.
Yeah.
Him crying in Endgame was a deleted scene.
Oh, they
Yeah,
weren't
Yeah,
able
him
to.
they
crying
showed
when
in the
Tony
theater.
died was a deleted scene, but in the movie he cried when Black Widow died, or when she didn't come back
Yeah, when she didn't come. Yeah, from
because he didn't see her body. But yeah,
All of them
I can't
did, right?
Huh?
All of them did, right? Even Thor.
No, like actually,
Bruce
like
didn't cry. He threw stuff. He as
yeah.
the Hulk,
Yeah.
he threw. a
David
thing.
has a theory that all the guys are actually like that are present are representative of like what the 5 or 6 stages of grief.
I read that somewhere too.
Yeah,
Interesting.
anger,
Yeah.
bargaining, because Thor
Thor
was
was
like,
bargaining.
"We'll just get her back." Yeah,
Nah, no. The bargaining would be Clint. It's like it should have been me. Like to trade him off.
Mhm. I feel like he
And
was
Thor
more
was
acceptance
denial.
of-
Yeah, I would say
Thor was
acceptance.
denial.
by the time they got back, I would say Clint was acceptance because he was like, because
No.
he saw it and he was like, "It's there."
Oh
it
yeah,
happened.
Thor
not
was
coming
like,
back.
I was like, she
Yeah,
will
she's
get her
not.
back, right?
Mhm.
So that's like denial, or
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, Thor was denial because Thor was like, "Oh, it didn't really happen. We'll just re-snap and she'll come back."
Hulk was anger.
I think Cap was
Hulk was
acceptance.
anger. So
I would
I
say
guess Cap was acceptance.
Yeah, I would say Cap was probably acceptance.
So
And,
then
like,
what was
Tony just sat there. He just sat there. I mean, it's probably I don't know what it's
Mhm.
called, but I'm sure it's pretty.
One of
I mean,
them's
just-
depression.
Yeah, that's probably
I would say, you know what? I would say Cap was depression.
no, because he didn't get depressed. He just was like sad, like and asked who the family was. Like, yeah, us. That was it.
I'm gonna look this up.
Between-
I swear I've seen this before.
Between the characters of Tony and because we know Hulk is anger. We all agree with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So 5 stages of grief. There's like anger, denial, bargaining, acceptance. What's the fifth? What's the other one?
Okay, I found it.
Thank you.
So Thor was denial. So Chris Hemsworth as Thor is seen not accepting the fact that Natasha Romanoff is gone. He says, "Why are we acting like she's dead? We have the stones, right? As long as we can have the stones, we can bring her back, right? So stop this shit. We are the Avengers. Get it together." And then anger is depicted by Hulk, which we all agree. I don't have to go into detail with that. Bargaining depicted by Steve Rogers. Chris Evans as Steve Rogers. Captain America was the closest to Natasha Romanoff. They have been good friends since Captain America the Winter Soldier, being through thick and thin with each other. Steve shows bargaining as he promises to make Natasha's sacrifice worth it. Tony Stark is depression.
I don't feel like
Stretching
I
for
feel like
that
they got
being
that
bargaining.
wrong.
Yeah.
They got
That's
that
that's
wrong.
stretching for that ended up being bargaining. I don't think that's bargaining.
They fucked that one up. But go ahead.
Yeah. Okay,
I'll
go
go
on.
back and look at it too, and then make my interpretation. But it says Tony Stark was depression because said that she was Iron Man was one of the most talkative and outspoken people in the MCU. However, in the scene, he barely speaks as he is
Yeah.
internalizing his emotions.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
acceptance is Clint Barton because he
Yep.
says,
Yeah, they
it
fucked
can't
that
be
up. No,
undone.
they reversed them.
Yeah, he's like, it can't be undone. It can't. Look, I know that I'm way outside my pay grade here, but she still isn't here, is she? It can't be undone, or at least that's what the red floating guy had to say. And he also like yelled something at Thor, right? He's like, why don't you go over there and talk to him yourself?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's like, grab your magic hammer, you go fly on that, and you go.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
Clint
they
literally
messed up
says
with
they forget the
Steve.
part where Clint literally says like it should have been me. And
He
he
did
literally,
say that.
I mean, he tried to bargain at the fucking location when it happened. Like, so I feel like they mixed up him and Chris Evans, right? Because
Evans was an
this
acceptance.
is not bargaining.
He said that
like,
he would
yeah,
make
he
it
said
worthwhile, like her death.
making it worthwhile is not
But
the
yeah,
definition of
that's like
bargaining.
something.
How
yeah,
is
that's
making it
something after
worthwhile
acceptance,
bargaining,
right?
though?
That's accepting it. Yeah.
That's post acceptance. It's like, what am I gonna do about this now that I've accepted it and go
Exactly.
forward?
You know what? I think a case could be made that Clint Barton displayed all of it.
Yeah. There is a case that could be
Because
made
you can, from the time it happened with him trying to stop, like you said, maybe that's the bargaining where he tries to stop it. He's like, no, it's going to be me. And then she's like, no. And then denial when she does it, like the look on his face, he's like, you can't believe that she actually went through with it.
Oh man, yeah.
And
he's
then
like,
you could
please,
go
no.
through. So like you
bruh.
could
And when he
watch
has the
him
stone
and
in
go
his
through
hand
all
too.
of the stages just with him, and then in anger when he yells at Thor, but then also acceptance of like, no, she's not coming back. So I think he is the one who goes through all of it.
I think they're using that to show y'all, like to show everybody, like, yeah, he's like, so this is about the stages of grief, and if you miss it with these characters, we're just going to make Flint do all of it. So like you'll know it's clearly stages of grief.
Yeah, I don't think that like all.
Yeah, and
of
the
the
depression is when he has a
Avengers did
stone
it.
in his hand.
Yeah,
because he didn't say anything.
He didn't. Yeah, exactly. He was just sad.
Yeah, that was
so I think they got it wrong. Like they're right in that it does show the 5 stages of grief, but I think it's just Barton that shows all 5.
I mean, I think the other ones show the stages too, but I feel like he's the only one that like
they
shows.
show various stages, and if you take all 5 of them, you're still kind of missing stages. But if you just watch Clint throughout that like 5-minute stretch, he shows all of them.
Yeah, no, I think they meant to do both though, where all of them show one stage at least, and then Clint shows all of them because he's the closest to her. So he would be the one that goes through all of them. And the other ones, their frustration was gauged based off of their personal relationships with her, however close they were. So I think like Hulk's anger was spawned from the fact like, goddamn, like I missed an opportunity and like never going to have it now. Cap was like, he knows that she, like when he like, they're the only family. And they had that conversation at the beginning of Endgame. Because it's like kind of something that he can also relate to. So it's like more like sad. It's like, damn, she was willing to actually die for her family. And then Iron Man just always had a weird relationship with her. And people like that are always kind of quiet and self-reflective in moments like that. Cause it's been like, bitch, you were kind of like a spy. Like, you like, we're very condescending. And then like, you're also obviously family, but also like, it's just a really weird relationship dynamic because of how they met, but obviously he cares about her. So he doesn't know what to say. He's just really fucking sad about it. And then Clint is the closest to her. They've been through all their stages of like, life as like spies together, being spies and then becoming Avengers. So he displays all of them because he had the longest relationship and the most extensive with the most experiences. So it would be appropriate for him to display all of them.
That's another thing I think the MCU kind of dropped the ball on. Nat and Steve's relationship. Because Nat and Steve were on the run. Nat and Steve have been together pretty much since after the events of Black Widow.
Yes.
Because they've been on the run together this entire time. Clint wasn't with them. He was at home with his family.
Yeah.
And so ever since Winter Soldier, they've been a lot closer. And in the comics, they're closer. And I feel like there's even a version of the comics where they end up married. And I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on that because
it's too obvious.
I think it would have been better for him to end up with Nat than it would have been for Nat to end up dead and for him to go all the way back to stay with Peggy.
I don't think so.
There's theories that they had a thing because when remember when they all met up, like I think it was Falcon was with Cap and everybody, and then Nat said hi to Bruce. And then he looked at Cap and was like, "This is awkward."
See, I don't think that was why. I don't
think that was why.
Literally, he just fucking ran off, and they were supposed to run away together. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hulk was
Black
like, yeah,
Yeah, I think that's why.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they came up with
That
this
literally been the
forced
first time
romance
they-
between Black Widow and Bruce, which
Right.
never had any
The only
chemistry.
so the only reason that Black Widow has to run away with Cap is because Hulk like flew off. Because they were supposed to run away together.
That was the first time that they had seen each other since Age of Ultron.
Yeah, that's also just that's just awkward in general. Like when you have a crush on somebody and like shit, we were supposed to be this whole thing and we're never gonna be because it's like at that point you kind of know like it's.
I still don't
Not
get how he
happening.
made it on the Gladiator planet in Ragnarok.
Sakaar?
In Sakaar,
I mean,
I don't
any
know
number
how
of
he
ways.
got there.
He got that he was in the Quinjet and
Planet
he
Hulk.
flew off
Yeah.
planet and it crashed on Sakaar.
It could
Yeah.
fly that
It's not
far.
like the Hulk knows how to fly a jet, so
Yeah, it probably ran out of
I
fucking
thought they
fuel.
found the Quinjet.
they did find the Quinjet.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember in
yeah, it's Hulk's
Ragnarok
Quinjet.
when he asked when Thor asked him, "How did you get here?" and he was like Quinjet, and he's like Quinjet. He was describing he was in the Quinjet. The Quinjet came to Sakaar and like crashed on the Sakaar, and they were able to fix it, but that's how the Hulk got there.
Dang, their
Yeah.
technology is so advanced, like in the MCU. They could
I mean,
fly.
Right.
it kind of
Like
makes
that Quinjet's
sense.
not a
though.
spaceship now.
Yeah.
The
not a
the
spaceship.
The Quinjets are modified for space travel because of Sword.
AMC, Agents of Shield actually did it too.
Mm-hmm.
In what the second season or third season,
Yeah.
Hive and Lincoln were both on a Quinjet that was modified to go into space, and they blew up. So spoilers.
So I'm pretty sure like
You guys think
Yeah.
that Reed Richards is gonna be the new Tony Stark of the MCU? Because him in the
No.
comics,
God, I hope not.
Spider-Man is.
Spider-Man,
Yeah.
in terms of like
Clearly been setting it
like
up the entire
making
time.
the wrong decisions or making all these decisions that create more villains.
Look, I
Isn't
mean,
the-
literally, he's already
Maybe.
starting down the path that Tony started on. That I mean, the end of the second movie is, but he gets his identity revealed because the Tony shit. But now you're like in a different territory, and it's always it's coveted. The people don't realize how coveted the masks and the identities are in this, in the MCU, not Marvel, but MCU, because all the adults, they literally kill that shit off immediately whenever Tony tells the world he's Iron Man. And now you have to deal with the consequences of everyone knowing who you are. So it may be liberating in some ways, but then you're on the run one day in other ways and having to do Sokovia Accords and everybody knows your names. You have to be held accountable. So the difference was Spider-Man was the only minor, and that's why, so it's like, that was one of the reasons protecting his innocence. So the moment Tony dies, everything's put in his hands, they unmask him. So now you got to deal with it too, which is kind of like what his fear was the entire second movie, right? Was not being able.
It's like a coming of age.
Exactly. So now we're going to be getting, for the first time in all of Marvel, a Spider-Man everybody knows is Peter Parker, which is like, what the fuck? Like, how's that going to work out?
Well, I mean, that's just continuing the Civil War arc from the comics, because that's what happened in Civil War. Except
What?
Tony, when it
do you
happened,
mean?
Peter Parker was a grown ass man. He was like 35.
At
Oh,
the
you
end
mean
of
Civil War from the
he
comics?
takes off his mask.
Yeah, in the
and shows
comics.
everybody.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
but he was
comics.
like older and like was well established, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In the comics, when he did it, he was like 30, like 35.
He was already
so-
the leader of the Avengers at that point, right?
Hmm?
Was he was already the leader of the Avengers at that point, right?
Spider-Man.
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
There's a point where he's the leader. It's like
no,
him
not
and-
at that point. At that point, Tony, I think, was the leader.
Oh, you sure?
Because Cap had left because Cap wasn't just like in the movie. Cap was like, I'm not down with that. So Cap took off, started Secret Avengers.
Cap always fucking
Unpopular opinion. I think that the person that Franco was just describing is actually going to be Captain Marvel,
What?
because
Creating
she's the
all
most
the
powerful. And the reason why I say that is because at the end of WandaVision, or actually in
Oh, no, you
WandaVision,
think that it's going to
Mhm.
be like Captain Marvel at the end of this movie, or at the end of Loki,
no,
or the
No,
bad guy?
it's gotta be the
No,
new
no.
leader.
yeah.
Oh,
Like he
I
said,
don't-
the new
like-
leader, the new Tony Stark, the person who is like a leader but also fucks up a lot. I think it's going to be Captain Marvel. Not only because that's what happens in Civil War 2, because it's Carol Danvers. But also because in WandaVision, when what's her name?
Monica.
Agatha?
First Captain Marvel.
When what's her name mentions Captain Marvel, she like rolls her eyes. Yeah.
What's her name though? Her character's
Monica
name.
Rambeau.
Yeah.
Thank you, Monica Rambeau. When Monica Rambeau, when they mentioned Captain Marvel, like you said, she rolls her eyes. I think that this is like it's them saying like the beginning of Captain Marvel starting to make some enemies. She also made enemies out of the Kree, and she made friends with the Skrulls, but then maybe she makes enemies with the Skrulls, and that's how they end up with, we end up with some bad ones. So I think it's the beginning of Captain Marvel being the new Tony Stark, where she's going to be the most popular main character, but she's also going to create bad guys along the way.
We're going to see more of that in Marvels. Like it's going to be Kamala Khan, Monica
Miss
Rambeau
Marvels.
and her. And she was even getting called
that's
out
why I
on
don't
by
think she's going to
Rocket.
be the leader of.
Wasn't she getting called out in Endgame, like by Rocket? Like, why aren't you like helping out on Earth or whatever? She's like, the universe is big. Oh no, it was War Machine. War Machine in Endgame was like, why aren't you helping us out? And he's like,
you're right. It was
Rocket.
Rocket.
Have enough of you out there.
Yeah, she actually in the comics she has a relationship with War Machine.
Yeah.
He dies in the beginning of Civil War II, and that's what sets off Tony Stark. But then they kind of did a nod to that with War Machine being the last one, and he just kind of looks at her and nods. It was Rocket that called her out, but her answer was accurate that Earth isn't the only place that got decimated.
That's actually why I think she won't end up being the main character, like the Tony, because her responsibilities are so vast. Because of like just her ability to literally just travel around fucking space all day. It's like for the same reason that Thor won't ever be the leader. There's too much responsibility, and she is like, I don't know if y'all noticed, and I think it's by design, she's very disconnected. It's probably because of just her powers are kind of separating her, I think, but also she has to have a disconnectedness because the last time she believed in something too much, we saw how it turned out. It was like completely totally wrong. And they made such a big deal about, like, obviously it was like playing on the trope of, oh, like you're too emotional. And because of her being kind of like indoctrinated into the Kree mentality, it stayed with her, even though she doesn't like it, I'm sure, but she's just really disconnected and pragmatic. But like, think about it, bro. Where the fuck were you at all of Infinity Wars? How the hell do you not know what's going on? And why it took you so long to come back? Why are we fighting this motherfucker by ourselves?
Why weren't the Eternals involved? If they were rather like,
they
we
are
don't
the ones who are
interfere.
going to have to answer.
Carol's
explanation made sense, but the Eternals literally could have stopped Thanos because he's half Eternal.
No. They're like terrified of Thanos, though.
Why are they terrified of Thanos?
Because he's a deviant. So, like, I think they're just like a natural fear. I'm sure they're gonna tell us why, but like, even Thanos is even supposed to be in the like Eternals movie, like young Thanos. So they're gonna show us why. But like, how can you kill him? It took like the two girls that could compete with him, like straight up with hands. It's one that is like a mutant that's powered up by the Infinity Stones, and one who straight up got her power from the Infinity Stones. Those are the only two. And Eternals aren't like Infinity Stone strong, I don't think. I think they're post-Infinity Stone.
Well, if we go by the comics, they should be. They should be.
Yeah, but they create vulnerabilities that aren't. It's like how they took Drax's powers away in the show, or excuse me, in the New Guardians. I think it's kind of like that, where they have to create some type of vulnerability to make the characters work well together. I think that the new leaders, it's because of age. The Tony Stark arc, just the way they brought in Spider-Man, it was very deliberate. And them then doing this grand like multiverse thing where they're bringing back all the fucking Spider-Man, like they're definitely setting it up so that like he's the guy and everybody is like kind of anticipating the Spider-Man movies. But I do think that Carol's probably going to be the leader on like the space side. You know how like they have kind of like the two different like this. Well, in the MCU, like they have the whole space thing, and that's like James Gunn's like thing is like just all space now. I think that she's going to be like the Tony Stark of the space side, though, for sure.
Yeah, I just think that Phase 4 and Phase 5 is going to lean mostly into the space thing. So that's why I think she's going to be the main one coming up.
So you think they're going to go away from the multiverse and go lean more into
I think they're going to have the multiverse, but they're going to start leaning into, it's like in in phases 1, 2, and phase 1, they like showed us space through Asgard. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then phase 2, you get like a little bit more. They're kind of like dropping breadcrumbs of like, okay, shit's about to get weird. We're going off planet and we're gonna be doing some space shit. We're not gonna be. We're going away from the DC where like everything is realistic and dark. We're getting ready to do some fantastical Jack Kirby. I don't feel like DC's realistic. Hold on. I think they're more and more. They're getting us further and further away from Earth, and I think that's why they're creating the multiverse so they can have crazy out in space shit. And
that's kind of hard to believe though. Like they just had a whole show dedicated to a local town on Earth. It was like there was a whole show dedicated to a local town on Earth, and then it was like then Falcon and Winter Soldier was specifically about like how important the implications of the blip and the snap like were on the whole planet, because like so they're clearly going to be playing on like the fact that the snap has such a major reverberating impact that now you have a whole other situation you have to deal with on Earth. So I feel like it's going to be like well balanced. Like it's kind of been like the last.
Yeah, that's why I think they're doing the multiverse, to be able to do that, to be able to go completely off planet with like the Eternals and Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange, but then also go like around the corner with like Blade and like Spider-Man and Daredevil.
Don't forget the X-Men too.
Yeah, like I think basically I think that they are X-Men. Finally starting to go. They're going into the actual comics and they're going back to the source material, because the comics do all of it. The comics are crazy out in space adventures and like down the street Squirrel Girl, you know. So I think that's what they're doing. Like that's why they want the multiverse, so they can be like, and also with the multiverse they can bring in any character from anywhere. Here's what I'm wondering. Is because everybody's talking about like, oh, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield being in Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm wondering if Miles Morales is going to be in No Way Home.
Yeah, we were just.
I've heard rumors.
Better be fucking Jaden Smith. I don't want to hear nobody else's name. Period.
I thought I heard rumors about that.
No, he ain't. But I do like he's 12 years old. He's 21.
The character is only supposed to be like 14.
Jaden Smith looks younger than Tom Holland. He looks younger than Tom Holland. He's the only actor in all the MCU to do a Spider-Man movie and then make the whole soundtrack.
I mean, so often they cast people who are like 19, 20 as 15-year-olds. Yeah. It happens all the time. It's horrible. It's stupid because they don't look like they're teenagers.
Well, Tom Holland was
MCU's done a good job not doing
Spider-Man
that,
when he first started playing Spider-Man.
Yeah, because they were like dead ass serious about getting Tom Holland young as shit. Because they planned on keeping him around for a long time. But them getting like that's how you know kind of like everybody could figure out like, or at least people paid attention, like Tony was going to die because fucking Robert Downey Jr. is old. Everybody, I don't know if y'all don't know that, but like, hey, how long did y'all think he was going to stay here? Like, yes, 60-year-old Robert Downey Jr. doing Wang Chun in the Iron Man suit is totally realistic. Like
he'll probably come back for a cameo in like Secret Wars in like 10 years.
I think he's going to come back as a disembodied voice in Ironheart.
Yeah, of course.
That's how her character.
He's coming back in everything.
Or it was like maybe like a hologram.
He's gonna be back. Like Tony Stark is going to be back a lot, thanks to like one, the multiverse, but two, CGI. But the thing is, so the beautiful part, or I guess like the not so beautiful part about the multiverse, is that so everybody who watches MCU always kind of gets like irritated, right? Because they're like, oh, you're gonna bring the multiverse, and like nobody's actually dying, but you're bringing everybody back except for like nah, like Gamora's dead, yo. Like it doesn't matter if you see what the fuck just happened. Like the moment they bring her back, she's kicking Quill in the balls and like running fucking away, and nobody knows where the fuck she's at because like this Gamora literally never made up. Like she and Nebula made up. You didn't have, I'm like fighting you fucking on ego, trying to blow you up. And I'm telling you everything I went through. And I hugged you at the end of Guardians. And like, I'm fighting, you don't know I'm literally fighting Thanos because I'm trying to find you because I know he did something with you. That Gamora has none of those experiences. So she's not the same person. No matter who you bring back in the multiverse, it's in Marvel it's good. It's probably going to make sure that it's like that. But no matter who you bring back, they're never coming back. Those experiences are gone, and it has reverberating impact on the entire MCU because of it.
Also,
well, even
Steve could come back, but if he comes back, it would be probably the exact same way as in the well, not the exact same way because they're not gonna have Kabik bring him back, but it could come back. He could come back where like you have old man Steve, but then something happens to make him young again. But then when he comes back young, he's not, like you said, he's not the Steve that we know. He's because that's how we got Secret Empire. He came back young, but he wasn't original Steve Rogers. Now he's Hydra Steve Rogers.
Oh, he's like Evil Fitz.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
He's like Evil Fitz.
Yes, exactly. Like Fitz left, and then he comes back. He's Evil Fitz.
Or is he Evil Fitz?
Yeah.
Is that? It's like I like it's every time like the MCU is like, yeah, evil Loki. I'm like, yeah, they're not evil. I guarantee it. It's just like their perspective is evil only because they're actually either like an anti-hero or it's like a warped perspective based off of an agenda that we just don't know yet. It's like not for nothing, but the MCU is predictable with a lot of stuff if you understand what their goal is.
Yeah.
Like their whole thing with Loki. So fun fact, everybody, Loki's a Gemini. And Kevin Feige is also a Gemini. And they released Loki in Gemini season. And one of the most redeeming qualities of Geminis is through their duality, they actually help people reach their full potential. And that just so happened to be the exact theme of Loki. And so that's how the first episode, I'm like, I don't think they revealed that it was going to be. Did they say it was? Yeah, they said it was going to be a Loki. Yeah, they said it was 2 Lokis, right, in the first episode. So they said it was going to be 2
in the first
Lokis.
episode they said it was Loki. They didn't say it was a woman.
Yeah, but I figured that it was immediately. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be evil. Like their definition of evil probably isn't the same as like the actual definition of evil. And I'm like, and literally through the interactions between both Lokis, they're going to help each other reach their full potential because that's what the fuck MCU does, which is exactly how I know that the fucking bad guy is a Loki. Because of course he is, because that's what the MCU does. Everything is about identity. That's what the last 2 shows are about.
We're already kind of seeing that, them helping each other reach their full potential, you know, going deep about their history and all that.
Yeah.
Trying to figure each other out because they know that the other one's probably going to backstab them because it's Loki.
Yeah, because it's Loki. But you also trust them not to backstab them because they're expecting it because I'm Loki too. Like, it makes perfect sense. And so what's her name? Rihanna? Is it Raina or Rivera? Renara?
From where?
Oh,
David, what's her name?
Ravana.
Is Ravana what?
She's the judge.
Renslayer.
She's talking about the judge.
Oh, the judge in the
Ravana
TVA.
Renslayer is just Loki in disguise. It's just Loki in disguise. Like, that's why he's keeping all the memorabilia, because he can't fucking help. Like, literally, Loki cannot fucking help it. He's like, why is your office getting bigger every time I come here? I don't know. You know, it's just because I'm doing well. Why are you the one who approves the timekeeper's missions? Or like, why? Why are you the one doing it? Why are you the judge also? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I don't
except
think
for if you understand Loki. That all makes sense. Because of course you want to be judge, jury, and fucking executioner to make sure everything is going well for him.
She's gonna be someone, I think. I think she'll be revealed.
I think just like in the comics, she's gonna be the girlfriend of Kang, who's gonna be the actual timekeeper.
It's too simple. That's too simple for MCU.
Yeah, no, because everybody thought
Feige
that
likes to keep it simple.
WandaVision, and then everybody was super disappointed when
Everybody
was
thought
just
what?
that simple.
Everybody thought what?
What, me?
That was gonna be like Mephisto
Yeah,
or
you
something.
were saying everybody thought what?
I thought everybody thought that it was too, like, all of the theories everybody had. They thought that what actually happened with WandaVision was too simple because everybody had all these crazy theories, and then everyone was super disappointed when it really was just that simple.
I don't feel like see, that's my thing. I didn't have like any crazy theories about WandaVision. I like felt like it was pretty straightforward.
People were going
more
so
about,
deep into it. They're like, "Oh, Doctor Strange is going to show up here in the last episode."
But that's why I don't believe the
It's
Kane
gonna
the
be
Conqueror
Mephisto.
shit. That's like,
It's gonna be Nightmare.
Yeah,
want the
and then
Kane
they're like,
shit
"Oh, they're
so
going to bring the
bad.
Fox X-Men characters because they already have Pietro in there."
Mhm.
Yeah.
People are going.
I do think
out
that's
there
going to
with
tie back
theories.
around at some point. I think it's going to tie back around at some point. But the everybody wants Kane so bad, but in this particular case, I think we're seeing the events that lead to Kang coming and trying to fix everything, not Kang being the bad guy. I think that all the internal beef that's going on via where they're all trying to exert some type of control over the multiverse is ultimately, combined with Cap going back in time, is ultimately what's going to be what destroy fucks up Kang's planet, and then he comes back. It's like, y'all motherfuckers need to get it right. Like,
yeah,
but
that's
I
what I'm
think
saying.
that,
Like, I don't think we'll actually physically see Kang in this series. I just think that he's the one.
He's been there the whole time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
See, I feel like,
and that'll be revealed in Ant-Man into the quantum.
Exactly.
Verse.
Like, basically, like, so we're never gonna physically see him, but you'll just maybe find out like Ravenna is not who you think she is, and then in Ant-Man you'll find out that like you just said, like Kang will come because of the events of Loki.
So remember when they said that basically their number one variant has been Loki? Right?
Number
like
one
they just keep they keep destroying different versions of Loki.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you go get a Loki because you think that's the best way to fight Loki. And then you find out it's just another version of Loki that you're fighting again. And then so who would be like, why did they go get Loki? Because Loki's the best character to catch Loki. So why would Ravonna be so like worried about Loki? She's like paranoid about this motherfucker. Because who would be the person to catch Loki in the act, because it's the most obvious Loki shit ever what he's doing. The fucking Loki would figure it out.
That doesn't make sense.
And of course,
though,
because Loki, the male Loki gets brought to hunt Loki because he's told she's bad. Who do y'all think the female Loki is hunting? It's the MCU. She's hunting Loki because of course she is, because that's the fucking MCU. That's what the fuck they do. Why would she be hunting Loki? And it's exactly what they would do. They would when they start something, they always bring it back full circle in the MCU. Every show. So it's, of course, she would be hunting Loki because that's why Loki was brought there to hunt Loki, except for he thought that she was the bad guy. It turns out he was the bad guy the whole time.
Are you willing to put down money on this?
I want to put, hell yeah. Bro, if I fucking put down money on every Marvel prediction I had, oh man, I'd be a goddamn millionaire. No, not Marvel, just MCU.
If Feige likes to keep things simple, he does. He likes to keep things simple, and that's the simplest plan, rather than bringing in new characters that he'll later have to use in another thing. It's like, okay, maybe because even Lady Hydra wasn't supposed to be introduced in Falcon Winter Soldier. She was supposed to be introduced in Black Widow, but then Falcon the Winter Soldier ended up having to come first.
Oh yeah, that's true. But that was like COVID shit though, right?
Yeah, it's because of COVID.
But like even
Falcon and Winter Soldier messed up the plans for WandaVision too, because apparently
it was supposed to come out right before.
Yeah,
it was supposed to come out right before Doctor Strange.
Funny story. Y'all know that like the that was supposed to Falcon and Winter Soldier was largely supposed to be about vaccines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was.
Yeah, it was cut. So both WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier were supposed to be 10 episodes, and they got cut because of COVID. Falcon and Winter Soldier, they ended up with 6 episodes instead of 10 because they cut out all of the plot that revolved around a pandemic.
And it's like super weird when you're like, yo, and then y'all brought in Isaiah too. Like y'all motherfuckers. Kevin Feige ain't shit. Like when Kevin Feige is trying to make a point, he be going like over the top with the themes, like the World Economic Forum shit that he was.
You saw the
doing,
reference to the Great Reset there. There's like a poster that said like obey, reset, or something, right?
Where?
In Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I mean, not.
No.
Falcon
You think
and
Loki?
Winter Soldier, huh?
No, Loki is where they're like obey or something or reset, right?
They had that there too. But in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'll find you a picture that shows like a logo with like 3 words.
Oh yeah, it's like
the GRC.
Great Reset propaganda that they're trying to do. Because like whatever their version of the World Economic Forum, like the one that you like basically.
And they're also trying to like rejuvenate people who had been gone for like five years during the blip. It was like, we'll teach you how to be good citizens. Now that we'll tell you what you missed out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Kevin Feige won't shit. Like I found out, like I'm like, bro, so you're gonna have a whole. So Falcon and Winter Soldier was going to address obviously the racism, then like the experimentation on black people, then you're going to address vaccines directly, and then you're going to call out the World Economic Forum. Like, bro, you're just going to use fucking Winter just to blow up, and you just say, hey, bro, I'm going to just fucking expose everything. Like, fuck it. Like, whatever. It's cool. Like, and I mean, but the theme was, it was still a simple thing that, in my opinion, was like, it's predictable if you understand what their goals are and how Feige and his executive producers move. I knew by the end, obviously we all knew like Wakanda was going to make his suit, and everybody knew he was going to be Captain America by the end. But the journey on how he gets there is like just as important and impactful. And shout out to Anthony Mackie, by the way, he fucking killed that part. Like, he did such a great job. But at the end, when he's like telling like, no, fuck y'all, don't cheer for this shit. I didn't want to kill her. Like, this is stupid. I don't want her to die. Like, y'all the ones who are fucking up. I shouldn't even have to be in this goddamn situation.